Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And here we go.
Live from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, welcome to the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com. That's thepicreview.com, and proudly presented by the Geeks Worldwide Radio Network. I, of course, am one of your hosts, the real Brad Bell, and joining me today as co-host is a former co-host of the Pop Culture Potluck Podcast, my good friend and fellow Chris Nolan aficionado, the one, the only, from the mountains of the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, Wil Maney. What's up, Will?
What's going on, Brad? How you doing?
I'm excited about this podcast, man. I've kind of been eagerly anticipating it all week. I've been trying not to say too much to you kind of about my thoughts on the film through text message and whatnot. And I think it's going to be a fun ride, but this is a bonus edition of the podcast, so we're going to get into some more niche stuff that Will and I enjoy before we get into that Dunkirk review directed by Christopher Nolan that we'll talk about toward the end of the show. But let's go ahead and get into what we've been checking out lately, Will, and I think they're both going to be something that a lot of people don't read anymore. Magazines.
Check checklist? Check. Double check checking of checklist? Check.
So, Will, tell us about the magazine that you just picked up. It seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I just grabbed, Mondo has been working with Birth, Movie, and Death, a little website for, I don't know how long they've been working together.
Like a year or so.
Yeah, I think they've been releasing special issue magazines through Mondo using, some of Mondo's artists. But anyways, I picked up the new Planet of the Apes special from Mondo this past week. And looking forward to the new Stephen King special that they're putting out, I guess, for The Dark Tower and It coming up this fall. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome magazine. It's got Eric Powell's art from Goon fame as well as Hillbilly. So they were really proud of that. Didn't really like his Mondo poster that well. What do you think about that one? Did you see it?
The War for the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
I like the poster. I like the concept. I just think there's two things that really bug me about this poster. One is kind of Caesar looks more like Koba in this poster than he does Caesar. It doesn't distinctly look like Caesar leading the group. Maurice looks like Maurice, and then the back ape, which I'm assuming is supposed to be Rocket, the other companion that went along with them on their journey. He doesn't even look like finished, just like he sketched him and they're like, let's get this poster out. I know that's not how it was. I know he intended it to be that way, but it's such a bummer, man, because I love that movie so much that if the poster would have been, I guess maybe it's a good thing, because if the poster would have been like good, not even great, I probably would have picked it up.
Man, I definitely agree with you. I thought it was funny about how that last ape didn't look complete. I saw it and I was like, that's weird how, which I guess that's his style, but I wish they would have used this Caesar. I don't know if you can see that. I wish they would have used.
So badass.
It looks so good. I wish they would have used that somewhere on the print instead of
Eric Powell did the art for that cover as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So he did this. And then on the back there, so he did the whole cover for it. And then the thing I like about it, I haven't actually read too much into it. It just came at the beginning of the week. It's got all of Mondo's and I think a couple other websites posters throughout. I know that's the one you like.
That's the J.C. Richards Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive last year.
Yeah, or it's got the I was trying to find Anson's.
Oh, that's a classic. The original, there it is.
Yeah, so they got the Anson, and then I actually like, and I don't know who. I'm sure it'll tell us. The Mark Aspinall. I like this one a lot.
Is that just for the first Planet of the Apes movie?
Yeah, it's for the Charlton Heston original, but I really enjoyed looking through it, at least for the eye candy. I've read a couple articles of it so far about Andy Serkis, and and that's about it. But I look forward to getting into it on our couple days off that we've got left.
Yeah, of course, we're both school teachers and we're enjoying the tail end of summer here. But one thing that I like about this magazine is, like you said, it does feature kind of whatever the theme is for that issue. Most of the Mondo art, and I haven't picked this. I've ordered this, but I went ahead and ordered the Stephen King one too. So I think they're waiting to when that one comes out to just ship both of them to me. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit. But there's that one famous Mondo poster that they actually did for the Draft House, where it's like the Alamo Draft House wants you to go ape.
Yeah, they have it. They have it in here. Let me find it while you're talking about it.
Yeah, with the Uncle Sam. And what's cool is the guy that founded Alamo Draft House, there it is. That's beautiful. It's simplistic, but beautiful. Of course, it's an Uncle Sam kind of ripoff, but still. The guy that founded Alamo Draft House, Tim League, who brought Mondo into the fold with them and kind of catapulted them to fame, he was a huge Planet of the Apes fan. So, like, the first Alamo Draft House that opened up in Austin, Texas, there's a gigantic, like a huge print of that just hanging in the lobby. And it's been there since it opened a couple years ago. Nice. That Mondo, the Alamo Draft House wants you to go ape. There's a guy who writes for Geeks Worldwide, Danny Benavides, who lives in Austin. And he said every time he goes in there, that thing just is like breathtaking because it's just massive. But they actually
is it like a one? Is it like a one sheet or is it bigger than that?
It's like a I think it's the way he described it. I hadn't seen it, but I think it's like a vinyl banner.
Okay.
So I mean, it's bigger than like a one sheet. Yeah. What's really cool, Will? I don't know if you knew this. I think I may have shot you a text about it. You know, they're opening an Alamo Draft House in Raleigh, right?
Yeah. And
I'm going to see a film there, and my brother-in-law lives there, so I got a place to crash. But and all of them have like distinct kind of architecture, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with the one in Raleigh.
Yeah, I hope, I would die for, and you're a little more fortunate being so close to Charlotte, but that's the one thing Asheville really stinks for. We got great beer, great food, great scenery and outdoor stuff. But I mean, we've got one really good theater, but it's not, it's got a RPX theater, which I don't know if it's all about the sound.
I've heard of it.
It's the biggest screen you're going to get without having IMAX. But it's more focused on the sound, but that's all we have for movie fans. We've got a couple discount theaters, Asheville Pizza and Brewing, and then Cinemark, $5 Tuesdays, which is nice, but no big screens, no IMAX. Closest thing is Charlotte for us.
Yeah, which you actually traveled to Charlotte, North Carolina to see Dunkirk in true IMAX, which we'll talk about that experience later on in the show. I've actually been getting into another film magazine. I'm trying to get Will to subscribe to that.
I looked at the prices. I looked at the prices. I can't do it.
It's $5 a month. That's it.
A month? Where did you find that at?
You got to go, like, the group. It's a Empire Film Magazine is the magazine that I'm talking about. Empire is a British film. I mean, they're basically a company. They've been doing this since like 1982 or something. I think when Blade Runner first came out.
It's the 80s for sure.
Yeah, they've been at this a while. So, and they have one of the best, if not the best, film podcast, the Empire Film Podcast on the internet, where they actually do spoiler specials with the director and the stars. So, for example, we're talking about Planet of the Apes. They had Matt Reeves and Andy Serkis on to talk about the film in a spoiler special. So, subscribe to that podcast when you get done listening to this one, of course. But it's expensive if you buy off the shelf. It's like $10, I think, is the retail.
Barnes and Noble or something.
Yeah, and that's where I bought my first one, which was the Guardians of the Galaxy one. And but they do like special subscriber covers where it's original art, like the one that I just came in the mail like 2 days ago, and I don't have it in front of me like Will had his. But it's the Blade Runner 2049. And it's just like a cool kind of one sheet style cover with, I think it's Ryan Gosling walking through that city in the rain. So
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, what's cool about this magazine is they go on set for a movie about 6 to 12 months, depending on the shoot. The film comes out, and they do write-ups, and they sit on those write-ups. And a lot of film websites like Slash Film and MovieWeb and FirstShowing.net do this as well. But then they do like full spread like exposés, and this is a kind of an oversized magazine. Beautiful magazine, and they just know film so well because they've been doing this for so long. Stuff you read in there is much more polished than what you read even online at a great website like slashfilm.com. It's just these guys are probably the best veterans going in the game today, not only reviewing movies but kind of pulling back the veil on the special effects. And the Dunkirk write-up was just awesome. And they had a lot of insight from Chris Nolan and his wife, producer Emma Thomas. So $5, it's $5.51 a month, Will.
Do you think for Dunkirk they had more access just because of being in England? And do you think for an American film they have American correspondents over here where they're getting after it just as much?
Oh, they have American correspondents over here. And there's two of most of your big films, especially the Disney, the MCU, and the Star Wars stuff, is shot at Pinewood Studios. So there's one in Atlanta, and then there's a bigger one that is in England. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is in England. I think there may be one in Australia as well. And so they got easy access. Like, I think they're close to the big Pinewood Studios in England, but I don't know if they had, like, in particular more access because a lot of that was shot in England. Of course, Christopher Nolan is British. They get these insights on, I mean, even their insight on something like Transformers: The Last Night, which was, I know, not the best movie, but so they were given access, and I mentioned this before, on our Transformers podcast with Amos, the Just Being Amos podcast. They were given access to the writer's room. They said this thing was like an airport hangar, half an airport hangar, and there was a giant, almost round table, like a Knights of the Round Table of 15 writers. And on one wall, there's nothing but candy, like you would see in a theme park. You know, those like bullcrap overpriced candy shops like Disney World or Carowinds or whatever. And then there was, full Bumblebee, not the Camaro, but the actual Transformer in this hangar. And they're just throwing stuff at the wall. Like, what's popular now? Oh, Stranger Things is popular. How about we started out with some kids? And this is the kind of inside access they're given. And they have a way, even when they're kind of talking, and this is a very artful thing, when they talk negatively about a movie, they do it so well, so eloquently, that it comes across as such. So I don't know. I can't. I'm going to be apparently hooked on 2 film magazines. Now, if you would have told me like a year ago that I would care or be excited this much when a magazine arrives, I would have been like, you're kidding. Like, it's 2017. What are you talking about?
You can't tell my wife that. She still reads People like it's going out of style.
Really?
She's obsessed. Now, I know she does the internet stuff more, but she's all about some Us Weekly and People. So
does she subscribe or just get it at the grocery
No, she just reads it whenever. She'll pick it up in the grocery aisle, or she'll get something across her Facebook. But you're right, though. It is nice seeing excitement for print, because it's a dying art for sure.
And I was talking to Abby about this, my wife, the other night. I don't know, how long have we been saying that print was going to die, that physical comics, that magazines? I mean, we've been saying that the past 5 years.
1234 with the printing press, or what was that?
So I mean, I'm sure it will eventually. I hope not, but I don't think its demise is as soon as we kind of projected it a couple years ago.
Honestly, I think it's people like us, and obviously other mediums, but the idea of having something tangible is something a lot of people really like that. It's why people still collect comics. It's why people still collect DVDs and Blu-rays, and it's just digital's the new thing. But you only get so much with streaming and looking at stuff online.
Here's the thing. I think they're cool collectibles to have. So they're on issue 339 or something now. I wish I would have been reading it when The Dark Knight come out and could have read their set visit on that. I'm sure I could get a hold of it somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure eBay's probably got one somewhere.
Yeah, but just to have it going forward, and every year they do their top 100 movies of all time, and that's a big issue. And of course, they had the top 3 this year were Godfather Part 2, Empire Strikes Back, and Dark Knight. That was their top 3 for 2017. So, all right. That's enough about magazines. Check out Birth, Movies, Death. Go to mondotees.com to pick up an issue of that, and just search online for the Empire Film Podcast and the Empire Film Magazine. All right, Will, let's go ahead and get into a very special edition of Epic News. And I say special because it's going to be all Mondo here. We're going to kind of go through the releases, talk about what we like the most, if there's kind of something that we'd like to pick up here. I mean, even if you're not going to pick it up, but if there was something you would, what would it be? So first of all, what were your thoughts on kind of Mondo's, seemed like blitz of posters since last week during San Diego Comic-Con?
Yeah, they've been releasing a lot. Honestly, there's not been many that I have loved or would get. We're just talking about the Jaws by Phantom City Creative. But I do like the Flash. If I was a Flash fan, the Flash by Cesar Moreno.
I love that poster too. Just such a simplistic but interesting way that they set that up with Flash on the left and reverse with all yellow, the reverse Flash upside down. I love, if I had any wall space, I may be picking this up, but I'm kind of like you, Will. I'm kind of getting to the point, unless it's something I absolutely am blown away with, that I really want credit blocks on my posters.
Yep.
So why is that the case for you? Because I know you're a big credit blocks guy. You'll see posters you like, and if it doesn't have a credits block, you may not pick it up.
You know, for me, I read somewhere, and I don't know if it was somebody's comment on one of our many Facebook groups for poster collecting, or if it was a blog, or maybe even Espresso Beans. Somebody was they were ranting about the same kind of conversation, and they said that without the credit block, it's just another piece of fan art. And the credit block really, really brings, you know, for casual people that are walking into our house or seeing a poster online, they see that and they're like, oh, that's a pretty cool piece of art. But when they see a credit block, they know automatically it's for a movie. You know, because you take Clockwork Orange by Kurtz. People have never seen that's not going to know that image. And so they're not going to just automatically assume it's Clockwork Orange and, you know, what it is. But then they see that and then they're like, oh, that must be for a film. I don't know. I got into collecting them for the medium itself, for film and television shows and things like that. And I think it's a good homage to the people that starred in them, and the directors and the producers and the creative team behind them, not only the poster creator.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that point that it's just another piece of art. I mean, I guess in a literal sense it is, but like the Dark Knight posters I have behind me, the Tong and the Dero, the Laurent Dero Dark Knight does have like just information about the screening, not true credits blocks, but that Tong is just an iconic image of that Lucius Fox computer they used to track down the Joker at the end of the film. There is something, even when Mondo Bottleneck, usually when they put out these type of posters, that like a company that actually has a license with the property or studio, their product is higher quality than somebody who just does a fan art poster. And don't get me wrong, there's some great fan art posters out there. Like, for example, what are the Batman trilogy set that you really like, Will? Who is the artist that does that? I can't pronounce the dude's name.
Domorodsky, or I need to look it up.
Right. That sounds right.
Yeah, it's the same.
They're like black and white screen prints. He did a trilogy set. They have credits blocks. I mean, if these were put out by Mondo, they would probably be a Grell set. If they were put out by Mondo and they had like screen print color and say these were the variants, I'm willing to bet money they would have been a Grail set, but they may be the best set of Dark Knight posters for the trilogy that is out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they technically are like on EB, on expressobeans.com, which is a poster collecting forum. They're classified as fan art, right?
Yeah. Christoph Domorodski. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but yeah, it looks like it's from Studio KXX. And let's see. They've done a lot, though. They've done, I'm looking at their website now. They've done Wolf on Wall Street, and I've seen a lot of these. Blade
they did
Runner,
No Country for Old Man, didn't they?
Yeah, No Country, Rocky, The Shining, and honestly, they're hands down some of the best illustrations when it comes to. They even got a Ken Griffey Jr. One that actually.
What's the name of their studio? KFXX.
StudioKXX.com. They've got a lot of cool stuff. Blade Runner, sport memorabilia, Alien.
Do they sell stuff through their site? I mean, because from what I saw, that Blade Runner sweet. What I saw is
I think it's all commission.
All commissioned. Okay.
I think I don't even see a shop link.
Wow. I mean, that is sad. I wish that did have a shop link, because some of these are, God, they're highly impressive.
You got some still books for games and some movies.
Are you going to pick up that set, Will? Because, I mean, you found it floating around at decent prices.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. What my Grail is. So I'm still trying to save up for that and pay off some other stuff.
Is it the Lost Stout?
The Lost Stout is
that doesn't have a credits block.
It doesn't, but the show itself, I don't think it needs one. It's got the Dharma logos at the bottom.
Cool.
It's got you know exactly what it is, and it's a television show, a little different. So many new characters every season, and it would be cool if it had maybe Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams and Lindelof and all their names on it, and Michael, or not Michael Fox, but I can't think Matthew Fox. Yeah,
Jack, right?
Yeah. So that's the Grail for me. And honestly, it's all about wall space. I was thinking about this the other day. I was looking at them, and it's just this 3 prints. You gotta hang. You can't have just one up. You gotta
They're
have
all
3.
24 by 36 too,
and that's a lot of wall space. So my Ollie Moss Harry Potters are going to take up a lot of that.
But at least those are 24 by 18.
Yeah,
so it's much more manageable. I almost pulled the trigger on some Apes posters this week. It was Matt Ferguson. He did cast and crew prints for Rise, Dawn, and War. The Rise and Dawn I found at a great price. One of them was even an artist proof. And I was 2 things. One was wall space. And number 2, you brought up a great point, and I thought about it as well, is what if they don't finish? I can't get my hands on the War. That would suck just to have 2. I mean, that wouldn't be the end of the world, but it still would kind of suck. Those were great posters. I'll tell you what. Go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, with that set, because I'm a huge Ferguson fan. He's one of my favorite artists right now, and I kind of just wait for everything he releases. I think the Dawn would look good by itself with because it's kind of the whole symbolism of Planet of the Apes. You got the American flag ripped in shreds, and the ape standing on the pole overlooking San Francisco. I think it would stand alone and be okay. If I was going to get it and didn't think War was going to come out, I would just put that one up.
And it's the best. I think it's the best of the 3 movies, and probably the best of the 3 posters. I do like the Rise poster though, because it's got the window that ends up having Caesar's symbol, and there's a little toy of the Statue of Liberty. I
do like the little Easter eggs that he's hidden in that on the shelf there.
Yeah, see, I hadn't heard much about. I'd heard of Ferguson. I never really kind of looked into his work until you have shown me some of his stuff. He mainly does a lot of stuff for Bottleneck Gallery, right?
Yeah, and his own Cakes Comics, his own stuff. He kind of releases it through them and does the Thought Bubble, the British Mondo. Have you heard of them?
No, I hadn't.
They're like the British Mondo group, kind of, but they have like the Thought Bubble convention coming up, and it's over in England, and he's British too, so all of his stuff's overseas. So sometimes it's harder to get a hold of those.
Yeah. Speaking of conventions, you and I have been talking about possibly. I don't think, just to be realistic and to be honest, at least for me, I don't think it's going to happen just for budgetary reasons, and it falls around my wedding anniversary. But
I think we should just do a Kickstarter to get the podcasters out to MondoCon. Maybe get some interviews, throw them on some podcasts. I'm sure we could get enough to fund a trip.
I bet we could get. I'm pretty sure through Geeks Worldwide, because they get press passes to San Diego Comic-Con. So
there we go. There's our avenue.
But I think they are, like I mentioned, that guy, Danny Benavides, he usually covers MondoCon for the site because he lives in Austin.
Yeah.
Kind of like I do for Heroes Con. So I think he gets the press pass. I'm sure if we pried hard enough, we could maybe get one more. But it's in Austin, Texas. We wouldn't want to fly. It's a 17-hour drive from us. But I mean, at MondoCon, for those of you that don't know, I think this is the 4th annual MondoCon coming up. It's just a weekend of posters, craft beer, and like screenings and director Q&As. And they usually have posters to go. They do have posters to go along with all those screenings. It definitely is something I want to do in my life for sure.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife Ashley, and we were talking about MondoCon, and the only thing that would stink about it is I can't go there with a bunch of money to buy a ton of different posters.
Well, you're already going to spend a lot of money to get there too.
Well, that, and it's like, and you know this too, it's like the wall space. Where are you going to put them? I don't want to just put a bunch of posters in a flat file and hope one day to sell them, or I want to get something I can put up. And it's just, you got to make something pretty special for me to pull the trigger on it nowadays.
Yeah, but I think if you go, either one of two things would happen. Either you would pick your favorite print of the show and you would get it and you would probably frame it just to have as a memento from the show.
Yeah.
Or you would get there, get caught up in the moment,
and black out.
Spend a shit ton of money that you would regret spending. And you would be also maybe funding a divorce when you got home.
You'd be poster buddying real fast on Mondo Trader.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's right. Poster buddy.
Yeah.
With hopefully some good kickbacks on it. But my fear too in going was, and MondoCon has always produced some, fairly decent posters, but if I'm going to go, like I'm going to expect some kind of grail to come out of it. And that's just not realistic.
No, I mean, I was trying to think when we were talking about what came out last year at the convention that is seen now.
I remember that Flash that came out, which wasn't anything special. I'm just off the top of my head. They did a Moreno Flash. I know they did maybe 2 years ago because I was looking forward to it. It was the Ken Taylor Batman 89. But it was kind of underwhelming because it didn't have a credits block. It really didn't feature Nicholson Joker. So, I mean, I would have got that had I went to that show because they did it with the screening.
Yeah.
But, I can't think of anything off the top of my head to where.
Well, when did Clockwork Orange come out for like Kurtz? Was that one of the ones for MondoCon last year?
How old's that print? Is that within the?
It's within the last few years. But you had The Graduate, and then
that was MondoCon, I'm pretty sure.
He had that span of the Clockwork, and then the Graduate was the two big ones that everyone went crazy for.
Yeah, that Graduate poster is sweet. God, there's some good posts. I mean, and here's the thing, like I would probably, if I had the opportunity to buy something like that, even if it wasn't like one of my favorite movies, I may just buy it to hold on to it. Not to sell, but to eventually get framed.
Yeah.
They're such legendary films, and it would be a memory of the convention. But, I mean, it would be fun just to go, like on the road trip and stuff. I don't know. Mondo went through a big transition because when I was in love with them, it was Justin Ishmael was the creative director. And he left, and I don't know the guy's name that took over, but they focused a lot more on vinyl all of a sudden. And then in the past 6 months to a year, we've seen a good balance between everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the different types of posters, the vinyl. I mean, so I'm excited for where they're going. My bank account's not. But again, it's going to have to be something special for me to pull the trigger.
Yeah. The thing I really like, and this goes back to our magazine conversation, is they're putting out stuff that's more affordable, like the pins and the pint glasses and the magazines and the t-shirts and things that if you really enjoy these titles, you can get something that's tangible and that has awesome art and stories that isn't a $45-$60 print, and that you don't have the chance of getting at a random drop. You know, the magazine's $6 and you know, $5 shipping. It's definitely worth it.
They will sell out if you don't snag them, you know, within a reasonable amount of time.
Oh yeah, of course. But I think it does help with their fan base, trying to, because, you know, Mondo, when I got into it, when you introduced me to them, probably 3 years ago, maybe,
probably like 2012 or so.
Yeah, it was one of those things where everything was a Grail piece almost.
That's
everything.
because they started with Ollie Mall, Stout, Jason Edmiston, Martin Anson, Ken Taylor. Those are 5 artists were doing everything when Mondo got really going. And now we'll be lucky if those artists do 1 or 2 things a year.
Yeah. My question is, and I know, you know, I follow Ollie Moss a lot just because of his stuff with Harry Potter and things like that. But, you know, what is Stout doing besides Ween posters? Like, what is he doing right now?
I mean, he actually, because he did take a hiatus. He joined the Air Force.
I knew that.
He served in the Air Force for a while. Wasn't doing any posters then. I don't know what he's doing now, but I guess the last thing he did was Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't get. I kind of regret not getting that. But I mean, I have 4 Stouts. So
I was trying to think too, like what Ken Taylor, I guess, with the Guardians recently. But what was the last thing he did that before that?
Ken Taylor with the Guard. You mean, wasn't it like Matt Taylor that did the Guardians for San Diego? Because isn't there a Matt Taylor now?
Yeah, but who's doing the timed edition? Isn't that Ken Taylor?
Is that? Holy crap. I think it is. You're right, man. Yeah. Wow.
But Matt Taylor's the one that people are going nuts about. It's got all like the fluorescent colors.
He's an up and comer. Like, he's going to be a Grail guy. I think
he did the Force Awakens, even though he put what's her name? I can't even think of it right now. The Stormtrooper and
Captain Phasma.
Yeah, Captain Phasma on the big front of the poster, and people freaked out. It was like, oh, she was in that 5 minutes, but I think her role will be bigger these next 2 films.
I agree, but that Guardians, Ken Taylor for Guardians Volume 2, that is a freaking incredible poster, and you can buy that right now. I mean, this podcast should be out tonight, so it's Wednesday. What's today's date? The 25th or 26th?
Today's the 26th.
So you can get it until tomorrow, right? A timed edition.
If I had a Guardians 1 poster, I would get that one because it's one of the best Volume 2s I've seen.
The question is, will Ken Taylor? Because I don't think Ken Taylor did a Guardians 1.
He didn't. You'd have to get a Scout or a, you know, Ferguson has his A New Hope ripoff.
Matt Taylor had his, you know, with the Guardians, those fluorescent colors with Howard the Duck in the bottom.
Yeah,
that was a cool thing. Well, you know, we're talking about San Diego Comic-Con. This has kind of evolved into just a Mondo conversation. That's fine. But that was a great poster with the fluorescent colors and including Howard the Duck on there. Did you like that poster?
I do. Guardians is really good, but it's just one of those films that I don't know. It doesn't
resonate with you.
No, it's just another great story with great actors and great characters, and that's it. You know, when the third one comes out or when they show up in Avengers Infinity Wars, I'm gonna love it. But it's not something I'm waiting at 12 o'clock lined up the door to see.
Yeah, and for some people, Guardians is that. Like for Jerry Barbecue 17 Reed, one of our hosts, he is an avid Guardians fan, and for a lot of, I'd say probably at least a third of people who love the MCU that Guardians is probably their number one or number two.
The thing I love about Guardians the most is I loved adult Groot from the first one. He reminds me of my grandfather for some reason. We've talked about on this podcast
on a podcast before.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. But he reminds me of my grandfather. Kind of looks like him. My grandfather had a very square haircut. But anyway, so Guardians is a great film. I wish that I was a bigger fan because they do have some awesome art. The only thing I have from them is the Ollie Moss. What do they call it? A bunch of assholes little print of Rocket Raccoon and Groot. So
what's crazy is I was on the drop when they did their first set of posters. I had the Stout in my cart, and I had the Francesco Francavilla in my cart, the Star-Lord. Mm-hmm. By the time I checked out, the Stout had been gone. But I did have the Francesco Star-Lord. I ended up selling it. I don't know if I wish I would have. I kind of like my room how it is now.
Do you wish you could get the Stout Guardians?
I mean, if I had the Stout Guardians, I would pick up the Stout Civil War. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I don't know if there's anything I want to take down to put that up. The only poster that I really want to put up now, and I haven't gotten it, is and I pre-ordered it and canceled it. And this is not a grail by no stretch of the imagination. Imagine that, me pre-ordering and canceling something. But it is the J.C. Richards Power Rangers.
You still haven't got that yet?
No, that he did for I'm8bit.com, and it is on sale right now on their website for $48. Yeah, it was a $60 poster. So I thought about pulling the trigger, excuse me, but shipping on this thing was like $23.
So you didn't get it?
I didn't get it, no. And here's the thing, like that backdrop behind me, you see with the Batman and the Superman back there, the only place I would have to put it, and if I bought it, I'd want to frame it, put it up, would be beside that Superman, which would, match because it's J.C. Richards, but it kind of ruins the DC theme of that wall. So I don't know. What do you think about that poster placement, Will?
I mean, it would look good, but I understand you and your OCD with the different license and things like that. But
it's an artist. I mean, so I think it would be fine. But that's the only thing I think that I like of the properties that I love that I don't have a poster for. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wish they had done a variant with the Green Ranger.
Yeah, that one would have sold out in seconds.
And I would have gotten that one, even if I had to go to the aftermarket. But
here's the real question: and I know this is not on our talking, but the Green Ranger. Why is the Green Ranger such a lore piece for people our age? Like, you just say Green Ranger and people freak out.
Well, because multiple reasons. Hallie was introduced being the evil Green Ranger. His weaponry, you got to think about
the toy franchise. I remember I had the sword,
the dragon dagger,
and then he turned into the White Ranger, and then he had the what was it, the long sword was called
Saba.
Yeah,
but here's the thing: like, he had the shield, he was evil at first, he's a badass. He had the dragon dagger, then he had another sword called the Sword of Darkness, which was really badass, which they never have done a toy for. And I think he was the central, it was weird, he became the central character of the show, of him losing his powers, getting them back. So I think it's a lot of, it just has to do with the story and the aesthetics of his look. The suit and stuff. So
who do you think is going to be the Green Ranger for? I heard, I've seen.
I don't think they're going to make that movie. I don't know if it made enough money, man.
I bet it will. I bet it's a franchise. They'll do it.
I don't know who I would cast as the Green Ranger. Like, I don't have anybody off the top of my head. Actually, I do. I mean, if it's dream casting, I would probably go Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
But he's already, kind of been burned.
He's a little bit above.
Well, he was Human Torch in that Fantastic Four movie. I mean, that was anyway. I'll tell you a poster I really like here, Will. and that is the from San Diego Comic-Con, is the 2001 A Space Odyssey by Tong.
I don't love that one. I don't know why.
To me, it's got the most batshit crazy scene of that whole movie, like that 10-minute just shot with the monolith there where he's going in. I don't know. When I think of 2001, I think of the score and that docking sequence, of course, but I think of this too.
See, when I think of 2001, all I can't get out of my head is the opening scene with the apes.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I
need to revisit it. I've got it on Blu-ray. I need to pop it in and watch during the summer.
I respect that movie. I don't love that movie. I appreciate like the trends it set and the
like
score
us going to the moon.
Yeah, and the score is incredible.
I mean, yeah.
But I don't know, man. Some of those shots, it actually is funny because I compared 2001 not to Interstellar, but to Dunkirk, and I'm going to tell you why later on in this podcast. Is there anything else you liked? I liked the.
That Ken Taylor Guardians just looks so good.
And you can still pick it up, Will, for the low price of $60 plus shipping. See, I did their Martin Anson, the one for Spider-Man. So
and it doesn't help that it's got two of my favorite characters on right in the front, Rocket and Gamora. So, you know, they do have the Thing Infection Outpost 31 board game. It looks fun. I like board games, but that's one of those that I'll probably would pass on. And I was trying to look down at some of the toys and statues that they have. Figures. They had
the Batman the Animated Series 1/6 scale Mr. Freeze and Batman. That was cool. I'm not a big toy guy anymore. I used to have Hot Toys and all that, but I don't know if Abby's going to listen to this podcast. She listens to about every other one of these. I will say this, that I actually have asked my parents and grandparents, my grandmother, for my Christmas gift already. I hadn't gotten it, but they ordered it.
What is it?
And they did one release of two of the turtles already, but it's the NECA quarter scale Ninja Turtle figures. So my mom's getting me two of them. I think she's getting me like my Raph and Mikey, and my grandmother's getting me Leo and Donatello.
Okay.
But I mean, they're so deep. They were like $99 each, but the paintwork, the detail, I mean, they look like Hot Toys level sculpting them. I mean, it's the best movie turtle collectible you could buy. But here's what's really cool is and I'm hoping Santa Claus will bring me this, aka my wife. They're doing the life-size prop ooze canister.
Yes.
CRI, and it lights up. How cool is that? Like, to simulate the ooze being in there.
Yeah.
It lights up, and like, I want that so bad. And then they just tease calls. A lot of toy stuff came at San Diego Comic-Con as well, and Jerry wants to do a podcast about that. We may Sunday, but they're doing a 1/6 scale shredder. I mean, sorry, quarter.
What's the group? I want to look at these while you're talking about them.
It's NECA. Just look up NECA, and anybody who's listening along, look up NECA 1/4 scale TMNT movie figures. And so,
which one's your favorite movie?
Turtle or movie?
Both.
Donatello is my favorite turtle.
Yeah.
And people that listen to the Technodrome Tales podcast, which is our 87 TMNT rewatch podcast, will know that Donatello is my favorite because I love characters with sticks. And favorite movie is the first one, like by far. I like Secret of the Ooze better when I was a kid, but the 90
it's not as dark.
You go back and watch the 90 movie, the first movie. It's great as an adult.
Yeah.
And those the suits, the Jim Henson suits, were so kind of ahead of their time. Were you able to find those online?
Yeah, I'm looking. Toys R Us. I'm looking at them right now. They're like $100.
Yeah,
they're nice.
And they had let's see,
so they're quarter scale.
They're like 18 inches, 19 inches tall.
Yeah.
So they're pretty big. They also revealed coming out in November. I'm not going to get this, but Jerry is. They revealed Raph in the trench coat. So they're doing it. Yeah, but I can't wait to. They said Shredder and the Foot Clan's coming in 2018.
Okay.
I'm hoping they'll do Tatsu, which is the Asian guy that helps Shredder. You remember him, the guy with the goatee that says "Ninja Vanish."
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know.
You got to get the pizza delivery boy.
Ninja Turtles is like, I have a weakness and a fondness for that property that I don't for other properties. Like even more so than Power Rangers, I'd have a weakness for that property.
It's your Dragon Ball Z for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little bit older than you are. So when I was like 4 and 5, like that's when Turtle Mania was like at its height. So I was 4 years old, 5 years old or so when the first movie came out. So
yeah, see, I hit it with the second movie.
Yeah,
because I was that age. I was 4 and 5 when the second came out, and I remember just going
it was
nuts.
huge. And then Power Rangers came along, was even bigger, which is hard to believe. Hey, what'd you think? Speaking of things we love, we both love Nolan and The Dark Knight. What'd you think of the Roy Kurtz Dark Knight that they did as a timed edition? It's no longer available, but it was also at SDCC.
Obviously, with it being Kurtz, it's beautiful.
You want to know? It's immaculate, dude.
Do you want to know one of my biggest problems with it is
what?
And I know it's in the Gotham, but the fact that the Trump Tower is just sitting there, that bothers me.
Which one's Trump Tower? I'm looking at it right now.
It's Trump Tower is the big one.
The tallest building?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was Trump Tower. I know that they mixed and matched like landscapes from Chicago and New York.
Yeah.
Too, so.
Well, in The Dark Knight, the majority of it is Chicago. Now, Dark Knight Rises is a lot more New York, and then the small scale is Pittsburgh.
So the Trump Tower, there's one in New York and Chicago.
Let me see.
I think there is.
Yeah, there's multiple. I think
the Trump Tower's in New York, though, right? That's where he did like all this. Well, I would say planning for the presidency, but that may be a generous term.
While
you're talking about the negative, Will, let me be a positive presence on the podcast, which I'm usually not. Here's what I love about this poster. If you look out into the water, the two fairies are there.
I do love that. That's the one thing.
That's so awesome.
And Batman looks so good.
He does.
And I like the Wayne Tower right there, and I like the little hints of red. I think it was like a 12-color screen print.
And here's the thing, Will, like you can't even see Bell's face, but you know it's Bell.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know that's his Batman. I'm wondering if this had a credits block, if this is the definitive Dark Knight Mondo poster.
I think there may be somewhere, and you won't notice it until you get it like in person. I think if he would have put a Joker Easter egg somewhere, like maybe had him hanging out of a building.
Oh my God! Yeah,
like maybe make it a little bigger, the building, and have him hanging out of it or something. I think that would have been a grail for sure. Or maybe had I'm trying to think of other night scenes from.
Like while you're talking about scenes, I want to ask you this question because Abby actually kind of asked me this question when we did our bonus episode where we talked about the Dark Knight. And that is, if you could take one scene, we won't limit it to the Dark Knight. It can be any of the 3 movies. If you could take one scene and have it be made into a Mondo poster, what would it be?
From Batman?
Yeah, from the 3 Batman movies.
One scene
or one shot. I'll tell you mine. Okay,
let me hear yours. And I'll tell
you. I have 2. So you think about yours while I tell you mine. So the number one, and I even know who I would like to do it. I'd like Jason Edmiston to do here I go with another big poster do a 24x36 horizontal of the Joker sticking his head out of the cop car when he breaks out of the MCU.
Like close up close up on the
Yeah,
Joker in the
not
cop
like not
car,
like
or
not just a headshot, like you see the car, not maybe in its entirety, but the focus is kind of Ledger with his face, and he could even have like his eyes closed. Like it wouldn't matter to me. Like I think that is maybe the most chilling shot of that movie with that bass dropping. So
especially after. Sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say.
No, go ahead.
Especially after he says to, did he say it to Gordon or to Batman about he's like a dog chasing a car? He wouldn't know what to do if he caught it.
He told Harvey Dent that in the hospital.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, in the chaos scene, or anarchy. That reference to that, and then seeing earlier, with the him with his head out the window like a dog. I loved it.
I would love to see that. Another one that would be cool. I'm sure I could come up with a better one. That, if I thought harder, would be something on the rooftop of the MCU with the bat signal, with Gordon, Dent, and Batman, kind of to represent them taking down organized crime. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I'll give you two.
All right.
I would love a under Gotham scene where it's got Bane and Batman on the bridge, and it's got Bane's back turned where you just see him all Jack Diesel, and Batman with pretty much, let's say Rory Kurtz with his likeness, because I think he could do it so well.
He's good at backs of characters, apparently.
Yeah. So you have 24 by 36, and it's like almost a level shot where you see Bane at like a quarter turn, and then Batman in front, and maybe you could even see Catwoman behind him looking.
That would be the variant. Would have Catwoman.
Yeah, looking through the gate.
Yeah.
With Bane sitting there with his chest. Man, I love that scene.
See, maybe this is a trilogy set, so maybe the Joker and the cop car is the second one. The shot you just said is the third one, so we'd have to come up with one.
I got one for Batman Begins.
Okay, all right. Hit me.
I love the scene where it's where he's coming out of the crowd of people. Like, it would be a harder one, where he comes out of the crowd of people whenever they've all been fear toxin.
Yeah. You talking about when he grapples up to the monorail or whatever?
Yeah. I do love that scene.
I tell you what would be cool though. What about him jumping the bridge with the Batmobile? That would be cool, like a JC Richards.
That, or a scene of him and Raj on the ice.
Wow, that would be cool. Which that Ape Meets Girl print was good. Yeah. The one that had the flower before and after. But I feel like I cut you off. Were you going to say something else about?
I was just going to say that whole, with it being Batman Begins, I think it would be okay to put him not in the suit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I
something we'll never see him.
I don't know, because what's crazy is, and this is so eerie, Abby and I watch Jaws every summer. And we were watching it, our annual tradition. Like, that's my thing. Like, when school's out, when I get done with summer school, we watch Jaws. And that shot that Phantom City Creative ended up doing with the jaws of the shark, like the skeletal jaws out the window, I looked at Abby and I said, wouldn't that be a freaking awesome Mondo poster if they did the orca out of the window? And like 2 weeks later, Will, they did it.
They're listening to you.
Yeah, no, that was just us in our own home talking. Like, that wasn't even on a podcast. Like, I have learned with these posters, never say never.
Yeah.
Because they will do something or something close to about anything. But just real quick before we wrap up the San Diego, that I wanted to mention for Mondo, I think you love this one. We actually was revealed when we were at Dunkirk, that Frankenstein by Francesco Francavilla.
Yeah.
I actually, I know Francesco. I interviewed him. I talked to him 2 years at HeroCon in a row. And I think he recognizes me because of my Southern accent. But he said at MondoCon, they named a margarita out of him. Not out of him, after him. Sorry. I forgot what he said they call it, the Francesco Rita, the Franca Rita. I think it was the Franca Rita, had 5 different types of tequila in it. And he said he partake of a few of those at MondoCon. So that may be worth going just to see him drinking those margaritas. I like that one. You love that one too, Will?
If I was a Frankenstein fan, which
or
that's
a
the
Universal Monsters fan.
That's one of those that like my nerd realm has never entered, is like the whole Monsters universe. Like I love those old movies, and I've seen them on TV, but I've never dove back into them and watched them.
We got the new Universal Monsters cinematic universe now, Will.
Which I'm ashamed of because I'm a huge Cruise fan, and I was hoping I never saw it. I was hoping it'd be good, but
it's so bad it's funny. But continue. I'm sorry.
I was just saying I love Francesco's pulp style, and I think his colors, and I love his art. So I'm a big fan of his stuff. With I think we talked about it last year over Halloween, his Archie Afterlife with Archie stuff. So
did you sell your Batman, Francesco?
I did.
I hate you sold that, man. I know you weren't. I love that.
The only reason I sold it was I think he can do better. I think he's gonna do a better one sometime, because he always does these different like pulp images, and I think that there are better ones out there. So.
I still want his Friday the 13th. You asked me did I want it the other day, and I was like, no, not really, because I was into those Ferguson apes. But I mean, deep down, I do.
I just saw it sometimes recently for like $120.
Wow, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
See, that is where you could rotate it in for like Halloween. Like, what is your feeling toward rotating posters? Is that just too much, or?
Well, you know me, I don't even have many of mine framed, moving into a new house recently.
Yeah, but y'all are doing a lot of like construction, and like once you get your upstairs done, you're gonna have a space for your stuff.
Yeah, I think having seasonal ones, like maybe you have like one wall is where you've got during summer, you've got your Jaws up, or your whatever summer films, or the feel that you want. And then when Halloween comes around, you throw up some of your horror films. And then Christmas, maybe you got a couple of Charlie Browns.
Or Die Hard.
Die Hard. Oh, that one's a good one.
Will, I had that one. Abby got it for me for Christmas one year, and I sold it.
Well,
I mean, I never framed it or anything. I didn't have the wall space, and that's one I wish I'd have held on to.
I could throw up for Christmas my Edmiston thing with the dog running through the snow.
Yeah, you should. You got to get that framed ASAP, dude.
Yeah,
that needs to come before the Harry Potters. I like the Legion, the Mark. How do you say his name? Aspinall.
I think so.
Aspinall.
Yeah.
So they did a 24x36. There was 2. There was a red and the yellow. The red I do not like. It's too dark. The yellow is cool. He's up in the chair, and there's all the elements from Legion. That was one of my favorite shows of the year. I don't know if I'd display a poster of it, but I liked it. I liked the Preacher print. I thought that was cool. The portrait. I don't watch Preacher, but it was a Jesse Custer print. They're also going to do a statue of.
Yeah, it is a beautiful print.
There's one poster that I never bought that I kind of regret. That was the Jason Edmiston Joker, where it's kind of like a portrait like that.
Yeah.
And I'm still tempted to go back and get that to this day. But again, display. But I mean, I don't know if they came out of anything here where they did another Witch. I just noticed I missed that one by Becky Cloonan, who's a comic book artist.
Mm-hmm.
That's just never going to match the Horky. They had the Jock Hot Fuzz. That was cool because they did the Shaun of the Dead like that.
Yeah, you know, I like Jock a lot, so I just don't like that movie as much as Shaun of the Dead.
I like World's End better than I do Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I need to.
And then, of course, they did another Mitchell.
Yeah.
The Garden. I can't even say it. I wish Jerry was here. Garden or something. I don't know. The dude with the anteater face.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't even sell out of the Beauty and the Beast. That thing was by Oliver Barrett. It's just kind of plain. That was on their site for forever. So, all right, Will. Is there anything else you want to say about Mondo and SDCC 2017? Posters.
Out of conventions, do you think San Diego being in Hollywood, do you think it's the biggest one for reveals and trailers, or what do you think it ranks? Do you think it's the Grail of conventions?
I think it used to be the Grail. I mean, with D23 is right up there, but D23 is only every other year.
Mm-hmm.
And D23 is more of a press event. Like, you can get tickets. It's hard to, but I know that we have a guy, Wil Asmato from Geeks Worldwide, covers D23 for us. But when they don't have D23, then all the Disney stuff floods into Hall H. So I think every other year San Diego's the biggest. But
yeah,
I mean, for posters, I guess it's MondoCon, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. And then what's the New York one?
New York Comic-Con.
Yeah, the New York Comic-Con.
Yeah. I know
that one's got a lot of artists and writers that go to it.
Yeah, that's the second biggest. But like San Diego's 1A, that's like 1B.
Yeah.
Apparently, the three best cons to go to, though, are Heroes Con in Charlotte, Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, and then Baltimore Comic Con.
Okay.
Those are supposed to be the three best. And I've only been to Heroes Con of those. So and it's an epic convention. But speaking of epic things, let's go ahead and get into our featured review for Christopher Nolan's latest film, Dunkirk.
The enemy tanks have stopped.
Why?
Why waste precious tanks when they can pick us off from the air like fish in a barrel?
There are 400,000 men on this beach.
Coming back round. He's coming back round!
Where are we going? Dunkirk.
I'm not going back.
There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do.
If we go there, we'll die.
You can practically see it from here.
What?
Home.
All right, Will. I'm going to run down some stats for Dunkirk here. Directed by Chris Nolan, PG-13. Scored by his longtime collaborator, Hans Zimmer. Was released July 21st, 2017. I'd say about 75% of this film, if not more, was shot in true IMAX. It was also shot and shown in 70 millimeter. It had an opening weekend of $50.5 million domestically, $55.5 foreign box office, so $105.9 million worldwide in its opening weekend. The budget for this movie was only $100 million from Warner Brothers, which is crazy to me considering how good it looked. 106 minutes running time. That's the shortest of Chris Nolan's career. 92% on RT on Rotten Tomatoes. Stars Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, Kenneth Branagh, and Harry Styles of One Direction fame. So, Will, let's just go ahead and say here, I mean, it's a historical event, so spoilers are kind of a tricky proposition here anyway. Spoilers for Dunkirk starting now. Why don't you, considering you're a history teacher, Will, why don't you kind of set up just kind of the basic premise of what Dunkirk is?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it just picks up from when Germany is pushing on towards Great Britain on the coast of France. They've pushed on. They've surrounded most of the rest of the European military. I think there's some Dutch, there's some Belgium soldiers, French, obviously, and then Britain soldiers all surrounded on this beach. And then they're trying to get to England across the channel. So it's one of the things, and as a historian talks about, it was kind of the Nazis kind of blew it because they had a chance to put their foot on the throat of the European military, but they didn't do it. And I haven't researched too much into why Hitler laid off. I know a lot of people started talking about that with this movie coming out, but yeah, the movie just picks up right there, and it's kind of it's a three-piece timeline that puts us right into the heart of the not really, it's not a battle. Of the evacuation.
It's a rescue and evacuation. And what makes this so unique is it was considered a lost cause. I mean, there were 300,000 people here at Dunkirk, give or take.
I think it's 400,000. And at the end of the day, they're going to save 300,000.
Or no, I thought he said 30,000. That's what Churchill said.
That's how many they thought they were going to save.
Yeah, but they ended up saving a lot more. Yeah, thanks to the heroics of a lot of civilians. So this was kind of seen as a lost cause by Britain and by Winston Churchill. Of course, this is 1940, correct? So this is obviously before Pearl Harbor, before the U.S. was directly involved in the war. Of course,
we're doing the Lend-Lease. Are we doing the Lend-Lease yet?
Yeah. Because that was like right at the beginning of the war. This is going back to Paul Fitchett days, voice spread, when Will and I were in school together.
That's right.
But anyway, it's a unique story for World War II, considering it's not a battle. Like Will said, it's an evacuation. It's obviously a very British and, of course, French-centric story. It's a story that most people don't know. We're both history teachers, and I don't think either one of us, while we knew a good bit about World War II, we didn't know much about Dunkirk. So if us as history teachers don't know that, I'm willing to bet the majority of the film-going public didn't know much about it either. So leave it to Christopher Nolan to take something like World War II that people have been writing about, have been making movies about pretty much since it happened, right? And give us an original and a fresh approach to World War II, something that I didn't think was possible. Now, what are your initial thoughts on this movie, Will? Don't give your rating until the end, of course, but just
the thing I love about what you all just said, what you said about Nolan is, interviews said that he's been wanting to make this film since he was, I think, a teenager. He was like, I want to tell this story, but he said he didn't have the scope and the scale as a filmmaker yet, and so I
just want to interject because it has to do with exactly what you're saying. In his interview with Empire Magazine, going back to that publication, he actually went to Dunkirk Beach when he was 19.
Okay.
With his girlfriend, now wife, Emma Thomas, and they actually got lost at sea for 18 hours.
Really?
And he made it to Dunkirk, and he actually went there, and he had been wanting to tell a story since he started filmmaking based on his visit there. But go ahead.
Well, and to continue that, I just know his little comment after that was that he didn't feel that he had the technical skills yet to make the film he wanted to make. And so he obviously went on to make the other 9 or 8 films that he's made leading up to this. And honestly, with World War II as a filmmaker, the studio, they can't take a risk on a director that they don't know it's gonna work, because it's been done so many times.
I mean, think of your big World War II movies, not recently, but in the past 20 years, Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg, Letters from Iwo Jima is Eastwood. Flags of Our Fathers is Eastwood. Hacksaw Ridge is Mel Gibson. Say what you want to about him as a person, but he's a good filmmaker.
Yeah. Thin Red Line is Terrence Malick. Who else? I'm trying to think. Pearl Harbor is
Michael Bay.
but still, that movie that they're going to entrust can handle the scope of a war film.
Yeah, in particular World War II. Yeah,
because it's one of those, and I think all war is, especially now, is being handled. It's wanting to be handled and told through the different perspectives, and not only the white American male's perspective. So I think studios are taking smaller risk when it comes to films on specific historical events, because
I think this is a technical, because you're talking about that he didn't have the technical expertise when he started to do the scope and the scale he wanted for Dunkirk and World War II. I think this is a technical spectacle. It is a technical masterpiece. When it comes to the shots he gets, how much he uses practical effects, the fact that they had an IMAX camera up in the air again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
in the water.
Yeah. It's crazy. So apparently there's 5 or 6 IMAX cameras in the world that, give or take, they're $1.6 million. And all the big studios have one. But Chris Nolan now, I think for Dark Knight Rises was the first time he had his own. He bought his own personal IMAX camera that he actually let Abrams use for Force Awakens, which was cool.
Yeah, I really, going back, I was reading something that said that he, the fact that he used real military planes from that time period, real destroyers, everything he tried to do for this, what it felt like, Brad, is it felt like, and especially since we saw it in IMAX first, it felt like this was a film that was shot using just footage for a good bit of it. Airplane sequences that could have been footage shot during the time period.
I'll say this, from a technical perspective, he couldn't have made this movie during the first half of his filmography, probably. But I think from what a studio would let him do, they wouldn't have allowed him to do this movie probably in the first half of his career. I mean, I read he's grossed Warner Brothers $4.6 billion to this point with his 9 movies. And this is, and I said I was going to go back to 2001, A Space Odyssey, and I promise I'm not talking about Interstellar. I'm talking about Dunkirk. This is Christopher Nolan porn. If you're a Nolan fanboys like we are, or fangirls, cinephile, but sometimes, Will, I feel like it's maybe too much. Kind of like in 2001, where scenes linger, maybe a little bit too long, or we lose the story of the film, which is unique on how they intersect it, but kind of we lose bits of the story based on the technical spectacle of the film. And I think those things kind of keep this film from being a perfect film. Yeah.
That's where, and we talked about it a little bit, is after I saw it the second time, and not in IMAX, I went to my standard 35 millimeter theater downtown, and it was a totally new experience. It was like I was seeing it for the first time, but I knew what was happening with the storylines. I knew what was happening with the timeline. I could understand what people were saying. I knew people's motivations. And that's why I think for Nolan, I think this film is meant to be seen, one, obviously in the biggest screen possible, hopefully 70 millimeter at least once. And then I think it's been meant to be seen at least 2 or 3 times, because then you get to understand these characters' motivations. And, when you see it the first time, especially like us, you see it in IMAX, you're just so overwhelmed with this, just trying to see everything and trying to see how far. I remember when we were sitting in the theater, I was trying to see how far I could look down the beach in several, above shots, or how many soldiers could I count? And because of that, I lost some of the story because I was so concerned with trying to just take it all in IMAX 70 millimeter. But then when I dropped it down to 35 millimeter, I could really, really take in the three stories, not through the actors and the characters, but through the perspectives that I feel like Nolan was trying to get at.
Well, let's talk about some more, just a little bit. You pretty much touched on it there with our experience seeing this first in IMAX. We went to Charlotte, North Carolina, Discovery Place, which is an IMAX dome. It is true IMAX. It's film. It's, you know, the whole 9 yards. It is like the pinnacle probably of how Nolan would like somebody to see this movie. We had a good experience, man. They gave us posters. They gave us pins, which I converted into a magnet. They had shirts that I wanted that I asked the staff for, which I wish I'd have got one. I looked those things up on eBay, Will. They were going for $50.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, I saw Dunkirk in 70 millimeter IMAX, and it had the film logo and stuff. But it is kind of uncomfortable when you're sitting back the whole time. And
yeah,
I think you kind of take more in the scope and the scale of the film than you do the narrative of a film when you see it first in true IMAX. And I saw this, Dark Knight Rises, and The Dark Knight in that dome. All Nolan, all IMAX, true IMAX scenes. And I always saw them first on 35 millimeter. And I think that I would have been better served probably to do that. But that being said, I'm not going to give my rating yet. I'm really high on this film. I don't know if I could go a little bit higher based on seeing it in 35 millimeter. I do think, I mean, with like Memento, Inception, Prestige, Nolan movies benefit from repeat viewings. And even though this is a historical narrative, this is no different, right?
No.
So talk about kind of the intersecting stories and the perspectives here, because sometimes with the time that something's happening, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around the first time you see it.
Yeah, well, everybody knows it was shot in 3 timelines and through 3 perspectives, with the land, sea, and air. And the air being Tom Hardy as a pilot, and then the land being all of the soldiers, and then the sea being the family from Britain. And you know, the second time watching it, when I could really focus on those timelines, is they overlap so many more times than I caught the first time. And you know, and they're told in different times as well. Like, I know the air was supposed to be 1 hour of a day, the land was 1 week, and then the sea was 1 hour, or excuse me, 1 day. And so they catch up to each other.
Week, an hour, a day, right?
A week, a day, an hour. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So land was a week. And so the first scene where we see the soldiers, where we see the soldier coming out of the actual town, leading out to the beach, I assume that was the very beginning of that week. And then the rest
that
of
shot's breathtaking, by the way. Wows you when you see it on IMAX with all the debris and the paper falling and stuff. It's like, holy you know.
You know, it's one thing, and I know it would have killed, and this is super spoiler, I guess. One thing I thought about when I saw that both times is I figured Nolan would do this with his opening scenes of, you know, shock and awe, was I thought that when the main character, and we don't know any of their names pretty much because of how this film is shot, when he's running back to the barriers after being shot out by the Nazis, I thought that they were going to shoot him, and that was going to be the Nazis shooting at him, and he thought that they were British. I thought Nolan was going to do it, but then obviously he turns into our main character for the land, so that didn't happen. But I was like, if Nolan did that right out the gate, where they're running to escape one fortress into another, and then they get shot at. So,
speaking of characters, I thought the strongest characters in this movie were the 2 sons and the dad, who were the civilians that go to help out at Dunkirk by sea. I mean, there's other civilians, of course, but this is the family that we focus on, right? The one that picks up Cillian Murphy and the whole tragedy with his son and all that, which I don't necessarily have to get into. But I don't know, and you have a counter argument because we were texting back and forth yesterday. Another thing that kind of keeps this, I think, from perfection, which I expect from Nolan, because it's my favorite director and he's capable of it. He's given, I think, perfect movies on multiple occasions. But I don't know if there's a memorable performance or a memorable character that like I still remember, of course, Tom Hanks from Saving Private Ryan. One is Tom Hanks. Two, he gave an epic performance. He is directed by Spielberg. Like I'll always I will remember that. And you go to Nolan movies, I mean, you're gonna remember Cobb, and Leo is Cobb, and Heath Ledger is on a different level altogether for many reasons. But I don't know if it has a character or a performance that 10 years from now I'm going to recall, like you said, and this could be intentional, right? Because many of are the characters named. I don't think they are.
No, the only, the young boy named George, Mr. Dawson, played by Mark Rylance, one of my favorite he's not newer actor, but I guess just on my radar, been in Bridge of Spies and a few others, playing the dad on the civilian ship. All of them. I'm looking at IMDb right now, and literally there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
character.
There's 7 total characters with actual names.
What is Harry Styles' character's name?
Let me find him.
Because I know a lot of this was fluff from places like Entertainment Weekly and shows like Entertainment Tonight. But I watched some of this because my wife watches a lot of that stuff, and it was on, and they were doing the Dunkirk red carpet premiere and all that, and they were interviewing Harry Styles, and one of the ladies from Entertainment Weekly, not Entertainment Weekly, Entertainment Tonight, said that he's a rising star, that this performance is going to catapult a career like Leo or something, and dude, I thought Harry Styles was completely forgettable in this film. I don't think there's anything special about him. I don't think his performance stands out. I don't think it's bad. It's not like he's out of his league. He holds his own. But I mean, was there anything special to you about Harry Styles?
Not then. I think this is going to be a common theme throughout the rest of the podcast. But the first time, no. I felt the same way. I was hoping he'd have like a more, because I read the same thing about him being a breakout star and still the scenes. And after the first time, I didn't feel that way. But the second time, knowing how it all ends up and knowing what he does, and I really understood his character a lot more and understood what his perspective was supposed to be in the film. And I think he portrayed it really well. And that's why, when I was talking to you yesterday about the idea of, I think anybody could play these characters because they're just trying to portray a perspective, not a specific person.
Yeah.
And his perspective being, and I think you'll see this the second time, is it's the soldier that's at war trying to, come home to glory. And whenever they realize that it's an evacuation, and he's talking to the other main character about no one's going to remember him, they're going to be, throwing things at him in the street. He was let down by the fact that this was not a glorified moment for the British soldiers to be evacuated by civilians.
But that does get to one of the most memorable scenes in the movie when they come home and the townspeople hand them those beers.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's an emotional scene, especially with all you've been through with the characters. That is a very memorable shot and individual scene from that movie.
Yeah, and I think the redemption factor for him too, because he, even on the train itself, he's saying, as they're reading Churchill's stuff, he's saying that this was a failure, and that did you see the guy in the street who was blind? He didn't even and he didn't know he was blind, but saying that he didn't even look at him in the face. I think that for his character, I think it says a lot about different perspectives of soldiers and how some people do go to war and join the military for the glory and to go into guns a-blazing and come home a hero. And sometimes people don't get to do that.
Let me ask you this. What'd you think of Hans Zimmer's score here? Because I did not like it.
the second time knowing that it's going to go through the whole thing,
Yeah.
you kind of catch on to the fact that it doesn't run the whole time. It only runs, and it changes the pace when the times go back and forth.
You mean between the day, the week, and the...
Yeah, it slows down, it speeds up, which you appreciate the second time through. And there's a moment at the end, and
so on the week it goes slow.
It's slower.
Okay.
And then when it gets to the plane, it's like tick 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 tick.
Which are my favorite scenes in the movie, the stuff with Tom Hardy.
Oh.
Even though we get a ton of freaking ticking.
One of my favorite scenes of moments that I did not catch in IMAX because I was so consumed with what was going on is whenever Tom Hardy whenever his plane stalls out after running out, the time stops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the next scene is in the future. It's already happened. Because Tom Hardy's timeline is going to continue on. But the
next scene when they go back to Harry Styles?
No, the next scene is they're getting ready to come home. They're getting ready to board the train.
Okay.
And so the clock doesn't go on anymore because it's already past the event at Dunkirk.
Yeah.
But then when Tom Hardy comes back on the screen, it's picked up again, the clock.
Yeah.
So I just think
you do telling me that, it does make me want to, and it's not that I didn't want to see this a second time in general, but it does make me even more want to see this a second time. And this is a good perspective considering that, because most people, unless they're film geeks like us, they don't go see a movie twice, right?
No.
I'm willing to bet that most of the people that went in that IMAX screen, at least half, don't go see it again, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is good. Speaking of perspectives, it's a good perspective on this film to have me, who has only seen it once in a true IMAX, and you, who has seen it in the norm and in true IMAX.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how you've caught on to so much more, just because of, again, I'll go back to that word. It is a spectacle in IMAX.
Well, and the thing too, and not to take away from the movie experience, but when I was sitting in the normal theater, and this is why, for the listeners and viewers, if you get a chance, go see this in 70 millimeter. It doesn't have to be IMAX, but go find a 70 millimeter screen and see it. Because it will take your breath away, and that's how Nolan meant for it to be seen. But when I was sitting in this small theater, it's one of those luxury lounger theaters. So
AMC.
The seats sit back and relax, and
completely the opposite of the experience we had at IMAX, where it's like rigor mortis.
Exactly. I didn't care as much as of the cinematography as I tried to catch on to those little things of, oh, look at this scene that he just shot. One of the scenes that stood out for me the second time was when the second pilot who crashes into the ocean is trapped in the plane. He's trying to get out of the water, like the water's filling up. The other soldiers are sinking, going down. So it's like the two are they're comparing to each other. So one group's trying to go up, the next group's trying to go down. I just thought that was, those little things you catch the second and third time that you don't catch the first time.
Yeah. What about your thoughts? Because you've done a really good job kind of bringing attention to maybe some of the, I don't know, they weren't nitpicks that I had, but you've definitely had good counter arguments. What are your thoughts on the editing of the film? Do you think it's well done, or is it a little bit choppy? Because a lot of people think it, even for Chris Nolan, is kind of choppy.
Yeah, it's confusing because I remember in IMAX, and I could tell in yesterday when I saw it again, there was like the gasp. The first time you see Cillian Murphy's character not on the boat with the family after being rescued, he's a general.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what rank he is, but when you see him and you realize that these timelines aren't in order, and the movie's been chopped and edited to make you think that they are, I think it's a little confusing for viewers.
Because it starts out and it's like the mole, and you're like, "What's the mole?" I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it is a thinking. I mean, much like, if not all of Nolan movies, it's a thinking movie. Like, it is, you put your thinking cap on, and it's hard to put your thinking cap on when you're enthralled with the IMAX. It really is. I mean, I like to think I'm a pretty attentive film goer, and I got the main. I got what he was going for. I don't know if I was able, though, to truly stop and appreciate what he was going for in IMAX upon the first viewing, whereas you, in a second viewing, sounds like you were really able to do that. So that's really cool. Did you catch the Michael Caine cameo?
I did. I caught it when we first heard it.
I did too, but a lot of people didn't.
No, every review that I read after we first saw it was like, I wish Michael Caine was in it somewhere. It's a British film. It'd have been perfect for him to have been like a general or maybe a cook or something.
So where is he, Will? Tell the listeners.
So if you listen closely to Tom Hardy's initial scenes, they're getting directions from, I guess, the land Air Force director. I don't know what their title would be, but they're giving them navigational information, and that's Michael Caine in the headphones.
Yeah, I noticed that too, just because he does. I was kind of expecting it because it was a Nolan movie, and he has that distinct voice that
Michael Caine.
Yeah, we've heard some. Even for a British voice, it's distinct, and
it's like the stall British. It's like it's so slow. I love it.
Yeah, I love Michael Caine too. That scene while we're in the plane where Tom Hardy kind of comes out of nowhere to save the day. Yeah, I mean, that was probably either that or when they hand him the beers, maybe, were my favorite part of this film. Or just that first shot was just incredible too.
Man, that scene with Tom Hardy at the end is so much better when you've seen it already and you know it's coming because you're looking for it. And because the first time when I saw it, I was like, wait, wasn't he flying the other direction? Like, that didn't make sense. He was just looking at him going across the beach, and now he's come back and shot this. But after they show it and he shoots down the plane and you see the captain's face of, that, okay, we survived. It shows Tom Hardy turning his plane, so you could tell he turned. Just those little things that most directors don't do. They don't find nitpick to make the viewer believe that what they've just seen.
Yeah. And when I was nitpicking on the score, I actually liked the score. It was just the clock. And I understand now that is more of a plot device than anything. Mm-hmm. But still, I don't know. Still wore on me a little bit. I don't know if it works within the context of the film, especially based on how you explained the speeding up and the slowing down of the clock. I still don't know if I like it, though. I'll have to see it again.
The one thing that I think this film did for me as a Nolan fanatic is, I think sometimes as fans, we get too hoping that Nolan will be Nolan in a movie. And like I said earlier about the kid running up to the other barrier and it turned out to be Nazi soldiers and they shoots him, that didn't happen. Me as a Nolan fan, I thought that was going to be, oh, here comes a twist right out the gate, just like Joker taking off the mask. Yeah. Or another part that I thought would be a really cool Nolan twist that I think it would have made it really cool, was when Mark Rylance's character, the dad on the civilian ship, said that his son was one of you guys, talking about one of the people in the Air Force. If that would have been Tom Hardy, it was his son. I thought that would have been really cool.
That would have been good too. I feel like that would have been too sappy for Nolan, though. He usually doesn't go for those sappy twists.
But see, I don't think it would have been sappy, because then he ends up, major spoiler, he's captured and he's gonna die. And so it's one of those moments where it's like, you are the only person as the viewer knows that the guy who just helped shot down, all those planes and helped rescue the guys, is now on a beach surrounded by Nazi soldiers.
I guess there are some sappy moments in Interstellar and in Inception.
The kids at the end of Interstellar where you don't know if they're real or not.
You mean Inception? Inception.
No. Inception. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
and then the whole video thing, of course, to spend
the whole wife jumping off a building. I mean, those are Rachel dying.
So while we're reminiscing on Christopher Nolan's filmography, where would you like rank this above his within his filmography? And let's not count his first movie, Fallen or whatever. I've seen that. It was more of an introduction than anything. It's not bad. It's just hard to rank that against anything else he's done.
Yeah. I would put it up there. It's definitely in the top 5, if not the top. Yeah. For me, I think, I'm a huge Interstellar guy. Interstellar gets a lot of hate. But for me, I love it. It just had some emotional things in it that really touched me and, connected with me. But it's up there with Memento, Dark Knight. I love The Prestige. It's up there with those. Yeah. So
I just think that The Dark Knight and Inception are like in a class of their own with Nolan movies. It's not that the other movie, and then Prestige, maybe you can argue that up there as well. I don't think you can argue Dunkirk above Inception or Dark Knight, or maybe even above Prestige.
I think Inception, The Dark Knight obviously is going to stand on its own forever.
And Inception has that title of being one of the most recent, even though it was 2010, but one of the most recent original blockbusters that we've seen.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Inception, at the end of the day, when we're old men and live life full of regret, that's an Inception line for you.
Yeah.
When we're old men, I think Inception will go in that plane of Alien, 2001, Blade Runner. I'm trying to think of original films, that came out of nowhere. And people say that it's Nolan's masterpiece because it's the film that he's always been trying to make, completely original, not based on anything. But I think Dunkirk, for what it is, I think he accomplished what he wanted to do. I think he told the story he wanted to tell. And I think war films alone, I think it will go down as one of the best ever.
And it's going to, like many Nolan movies, as we mentioned, going to stand up and even improve with repeat viewing. So hopefully they'll apparently he's going back and restoring all 3 Batman movies and then his other movies in 4K. So hopefully they'll do a 4K Blu-ray. I mean, this movie already looked beautiful, but to see the grain and stuff on the 70 millimeter. I was talking to Abby and she's like, wait, I thought you wanted it to be super clear. You like grain? I'm like, well, when I'm watching it on the screen and it's actual film, I do. Mm-hmm. There's just something about that just takes you back. So, I mean, it may be my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, I don't know. I really like Insomnia, man.
Insomnia I love Insomnia.
Yeah, and that's one that doesn't get. That's probably the least talked about Nolan movie.
Pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, Robin Williams playing a serial killer.
Man, you know what I love about Insomnia is that Nolan shot that with no artificial light.
That's crazy to me. I did not know that. I mean, I believe it, but I did not know that.
Yeah, that was one of my fun facts for the day for you. Yeah, there's no artificial light in that movie.
That being said, Inception and Dark Knight are in my top 10 favorite films of all time.
Really?
Dark Knight's my favorite movie of all time. And Inception's like 5 or 6 probably. And I go in, and Saving Private Ryan's the only war movie that I have in my top 10 of all time. And we're going to do that actually one day on the Confirmed Epic podcast. We're going to go through and count down our top favorite 25 movies, not the best, but our top favorite 25 films of all time. So there's a tease for you. Will, is Christopher Nolan the best filmmaker going right now?
Yeah. I think I've been going through.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to say I'm going through recently. Obviously, with any Nolan film comes out, you're going to go through all the Nolan films, but I've been rewatching some of P.T. Anderson movies, Paul Thomas Anderson, and then obviously Tarantino, and then Kubrick. But he's in the most recent if not the best director out right now.
Terrence Malick too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, Terrence Malick, but like, and I'm not the biggest Terrence Malick like fanatic. I like his films, some of them, the ones I've seen, but a lot of people have said that his work is so out there, as in he'll spend 10, 15 years on one film. That it kind of loses touch with the generation that it comes out with. Yeah. So I don't know well enough to speak on, but Thin Red Line and Tree of Life. I just bought Tree of Life on Blu-ray today at my local used bookstore. So
J.J. Abrams, I mean, as far as blockbuster filmmaking, I mean, you can't discredit him.
Love J.J. Spielberg-esque.
Yeah.
But Spielberg, even modern day Spielberg.
I don't think modern day Spielberg's as good as Spielberg, I mean, in his prime. And like, that's why, like, when I say is Nolan the best filmmaker, I don't compare Nolan to like Scorsese and Spielberg now. I know they're still making films. Yeah. Nolan's 47 years old, I think, 46 or 47. So those guys are much, they're a little long in the tooth. And another thing, I asked Abby this on our Dark Knight podcast. You think he will ever win a Best Picture? One of his movies will. Or he'll win a Best Director Nolan? Oscar? Yeah.
I mean...
It took Scorsese forever. I mean, he should have won. It was Departed.
Departed, yeah. I think it all has to do with the year it comes out as the Oscars go.
But a lot of Nolan movies are blockbuster cinema, and they're released in the summer, which does not really lend itself to Academy Award consideration. Yeah. Although Inception was nominated for Best Picture, he was nominated for Best Director for that. And Dark Knight changed the game, and it upped it to 10 nominees, up to 10, because a lot of people thought Dark Knight should have been nominated. I think he will, but it may be one of those, health and everything, God willing, be one of those lifetime achievement like ones where they probably give it to him for a movie that maybe is not his best, but they recognize him. That's what happened with Scorsese. Do you think it will ever happen though, Will?
I don't know. Think of Tarantino. Has he ever won a Best Director?
Oh my gosh, I think he has. I know he's been nominated multiple times. I'm gonna look that up. What's your favorite Tarantino film? While I'm looking that up,
probably. Oh, I haven't seen the Kill Bills in so long. I can't put them in there. I did really enjoy Django. Obviously, Hateful Eight was good. I
own that, but I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's good. Pulp Fiction,
Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
I like
Kill Bills are my favorite.
I like Inglourious Bastards, but I don't love it as much as everybody else does.
Speaking of Tarantino, he won for Best Original Screenplay for Django Unchained, and he won Best Original Screenplay, Pulp Fiction. These are not Best Picture, obviously. He was nominated for Screenplay for Inglourious Bastards and Best Director for Pulp Fiction and Best Director for Inglourious Bastards. But he won, Tarantino that is, Best Screenplay, Django, and Best Original Screenplay, Pulp Fiction. Nolan's been nominated for Best Picture, Inception, which is 2011, apparently, which it means it's a 2010 film, though. 2011 Oscars. He was nominated for Best Original Screenplay for Inception, and he was nominated in 2002 for Best Original Screenplay for Memento. Go ahead, Will.
Well, so put this in perspective for you. I don't know if Nolan will ever win Best Director, because I was like, how many Oscars do you think Kubrick has?
2.
He has 1 Oscar, and it's for Best Visual Effects for Space Odyssey. He has only been nominated for Best Director 4 times and did not win any of those.
What were his Best Picture nominees? Does it show that? Was Clockwork.
Space Odyssey, Strangelove, Barry Lyndon, and Clockwork.
I'm looking at Spielberg now. His only Best Picture winner is Schindler's List, 1994.
See, I think for Best Director, I think the film, like I'm trying to think of like who won Best Director last year? Was it the guy for La La Land?
I think so.
I think
usually Best Director and Best Picture go hand in hand, but not always.
No, I think a lot of time it has to do with the films that are like La La Land came out of left field, with a musical being as good as it was and as popular as it was. And the same with the
only thing that will keep Nolan, I think, from winning Best Picture is I don't know if he dives into the social issues as much.
That's what I'm saying. He's here to make films for film's sake. I don't think he's trying to speak political with his films.
I don't know. With The Dark Knight, there's a ton of political allegories about privacy and about terrorism, and he says they weren't intentional, but I call bullshit. You listen to that Dark Knight podcast to hear about that. I did. But, yeah, I mean, Spielberg did win Best Director twice for Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. So I don't know.
While we're sticking on this, I'm going to give you the last 10 Best Director. Let's see if you can name any of them.
If I can name any of them. Didn't Ang Lee win for Brokeback Mountain?
Ang Lee for let's go last. It's not in the last 10 years, but yeah, Ang Lee has won twice in the last 12 years.
So he didn't win for Brokeback Mountain.
He did, yeah, in 2005.
Okay. Oh shit! Well, I can't believe that movie was more than 10 years ago.
Well, Dark Knight was 2008.
I know. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So here you go. Damien Chazelle for La La Land. Okay. Alejandro Inarritu for Revenant.
Mm-hmm.
Alejandro the year before for Birdman. So that was back to back. But you know what gets him those Best Director is he does those one shots, those long shots that don't cut.
Yeah.
Birdman, they had the one. And then
I'll tell you who we forgot as far as Best Directors. What about Alfonso Cuarón?
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at. He won for Gravity.
What's our boy who does Dennis Villeneuve for Arrival and stuff?
No, he has not won.
Okay. All right.
Danny Boyle for Slumdog, Catherine Bigelow, The Hurt Locker, Tom Hooper for King's Speech, Michael Hazanavicius for The Artist, the Coen brothers for No Country, and then Scorsese in 2006 for The Departed.
And of course the Coen brothers too. I mean, they're still going pretty strong, you know?
I think Nolan has a better chance I think Dunkirk could do Best Picture.
Do you think it's going to get a Best Picture nominee?
I think so.
Even though it's a July movie?
I think so.
Wow. I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I'm rooting. There's no other director probably that of course I'd like to see JJ win one day for something. He probably won't. But I mean, I'm rooting for nobody else more than I am, Christopher Nolan to win. My father-in-law is a big fan of the Coen brothers. And he asked me, did I think that Nolan was better than the Coen brothers as directors? And I think I like Nolan's movies better. It's so hard to say one's better than the other,
So here we go. So I'm looking at this at GQ Britain. They're trying to guess how many Dunkirk will get. Okay. Obviously, they're going through and gotten all the way down to Best Director. They say there's no way whatsoever he doesn't get nominated. But
Best Cinematography is getting nominated.
Oh yeah,
sure.
But
He'll probably win that.
But they say the director is going to be hard because Darren Aronofsky has Mother coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Thomas Anderson has a film coming out. Daniel Day's last film, apparently.
Yeah, it's about the fashion industry.
Spielberg, Catherine Bigelow, the woman that did Hurt Locker, Sofia Coppola, and even Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman. So
I love Wonder Woman. I love that movie. Abby adores it. But if Patty Jenkins gets nominated for Best Picture, or Best Director, sorry, and Nolan doesn't get nominated for Dunkirk, that's an outcry. I mean, they're not even close as far as from a filmmaking standpoint. And that's not to slight Wonder Woman. I'm not trying to. Wonder Woman was a big. It will get nominated because this is going to be a big year for female empowerment, and it should be.
Yeah.
Based on the current political landscape, and Wonder Woman represents that. I think that's one of the things that made that so socially significant. But what would you rate Dunkirk? So let's go on our scale. Will, you can do, of course, half. Would you give it a crap, good, great, or epic?
I'm giving it an epic.
Confirmed epic, a 5-star film, really.
Yeah, giving it an epic.
And what would be, we've talked about it, but what is the one defining characteristic of this film that qualifies it as epic? There's multiple, I know, but if you had to pick one.
I think the cinematography, for sure.
Okay. And I think I was so torn on this movie, what I was going to rate it, because I debated between a great and a half, and epic. There's no way it's going to be below a great for me. And I think from a technical standpoint, a cinematography standpoint, it is an epic film. And I think even with this uniqueness and, the intersecting timelines and what you even brought to light to me about the clock and the speed of that within the Hans Zimmer score, I still, though, and I know you had a great counter argument, but I'm still going to just say that there's not a memorable character or performance to me that I will be talking about 10 years from now. I'm going to give it a great and a half.
Okay.
And it will probably make my top 10 of the year, probably top 5 of the year easy. And I hope Nolan gets a lot of Oscar love here. So great and a half.
British GQ says possibility of 9 Oscars but a lot of them were the cinematography, sound, editing, things like that.
Yeah, Warner Brothers will push it hard. I'm sure they'll give it a great campaign. All the money he's made them.
You wonder what else is coming out for them, though, for Warner Brothers. I mean, you got, I don't know,
Blade Runner 2049, but I mean, that's not going to be
yeah.
You wouldn't think that would be like a Best Picture type movie for them, but it is coming out in October.
Yeah.
And it is Denis Villeneuve. I think I'm saying his name right. All right, Will, where can people find more of you? Mondo Trader on Facebook, right?
Yeah, check me out on Facebook, Mondo Trader. There you go. But yeah, Facebook is Vincent Maine, just so keeping my teacher life separate from students. VINSONMANE.
You mean your private life?
Yeah, my private life.
Teacher life.
Yeah, keep that. Yeah, but private life separate from the teacher life, and then at Twitter at 1L Maine, 1 letter L MANE. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. As for me, you can find me at Geeks Worldwide, thegww.com. You can find me at TH Epic Review, theepicreview.com. Find me on Twitter at The Real Brad Bell, DREEL Brad Bell. We got a lot of content this week. We have this podcast should be dropping tonight on Thursday, and then tomorrow we're going to be recording episode 70 where we go through San Diego Comic-Con news and review Mask of the Phantasm. Abby and I just dropped a bonus episode on The Dark Knight, which was referenced many times. A good amount of downloads on that for a bonus, so check that out. I'm really excited about a video that I'm going to release Friday, Will. Now, it's not a technical masterpiece, but what I did was I went through my house and my podcasting room here, and I showed my poster collection in this video.
Nice.
And I've edited that, and I'll drop that on Friday. So a lot of good content coming out. And Will, you actually got to see my posters in person, so that was cool. I wasn't trying to be, I felt like an asshole. I felt like I was like, here's this and here's that. And Will's wife, Ashley, was probably like, this guy's a pretentious douchebag saying he's got all this stuff. And it's like, I just know how much Will likes all this stuff too. And there's only like, he's the only person I can really nerd out to about Mondo posters. I mean, Andrew has a love-hate relationship with Mondo, but yeah, that was the reasoning for that.
No, she just thinks you're a bad influence on me for my poster habit.
I think Abby thinks you're a bad one on me because I'll be like, I'm done buying, and then you'll say, "Did you see this? Did you see that?" And
that's exactly what Ashley says.
I didn't even know Matt Ferguson really until Will, which I'm glad he showed me Matt. But
there you go.
Anyway, once again, from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we are out.
That's all I have to say about that.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks, assemble!